Have you ever wondered what really goes on inside my program? Well, today's episode, I'm going to open the hood and show you what kinds of things we talk about and why this is how these women finally learn how to lose that physical weight and keep it off. My name is Dara Tomasson, and this is episode 249. Okay, so I often wondered, what did it actually take to lose weight? If you're like me and you were part of Weight Watchers and you did all sorts of crazy things with weight loss, like take a picture of yourself on a scale with a certain word, post it, and put $50 in a pot. If you didn't lose that weight, you would lose that money. I've done that a couple times. So we do all sorts of stuff to lose weight and hours of research. The work that I do inside my program, it's not an easy, quick fix because we have been wired to react to different situations with food. Some of us have been wired to go to alcohol. Some of us go to over shopping, over people pleasing. We all have our different strategies. And I wanted to share some recent experiences on the call so that you can see what's really needing to happen. The reason I called it Be Kind and Rewind is that in our childhood, we hear our mom's voice. Recently, I was coaching a woman in her 60s, and she was sharing how at nighttime, she would say to herself, "All right, it's time to go to bed." Now, she's not married anymore. Her kids are gone. They're doing their master's degree. They're very successful. She was very successful. And she starts buffering and she starts arguing and says, Dara, I'm in charge of me and I am rebelling against who? So interesting. So then she's eating the ice cream and she's doing all these things because she still has her mom in her head. She still has this whole story of, well, us kind of women in our family, we need to sacrifice. We need to be these martyrs. And so she's keeping that story going. I don't want you to beat yourself up when we go to the past, right? When we rewind the story. And unless we actually go rewind the story and then put ourselves in there with compassion and understanding and respect and love, we will never make a change. Another client recently, she grew up in a very large family. And one of the things that she did was a paper route. Before she would go on her paper route, she would sneak into the freezer and eat a bunch of ice cream. Because in her house, if she made anything for herself, she'd have to make it for all these siblings. And even to this day, she feels guilty about eating in front of other people. She has a lot of fear of missing out around food. So fascinating to show how these old childhood experiences influence her current life. Not only does she have these confusing stories, but she also now sees her daughter having difficulties and challenges with food. She doesn't want to pass that down and wants to make a change now, even though her daughter is 30 years old. She feels that food is comforting. She loves food. She loves the taste of it. She feels guilty when others see her eating. She was told that the girls are heavy in her family and the boys are skinny. She's always had scarcity around food. She had to always clean her plate. Another client who recently joined was beautiful. She still is beautiful, but in her prime, she was drop dead gorgeous. She got that message very quickly and used her beauty to her advantage. Sometimes I still have to catch myself when I look at myself and I think, oh, my eyes are puffier, my wrinkles are more profound. This new identity of being older has been really challenging for her. Her beauty is not the same as it was. I believe she's still beautiful, but her family were jealous. And so she ended up overeating so that she could fit in more with her family. She's in her 60s and doesn't even know who she is anymore. When she looks in the mirror, It's like she doesn't recognize herself and doesn't love her body anymore. It feels puffy and inflamed, and she has a hard time looking at herself. She thought that if she looked more like her family, she would feel like she belonged more. Okay, so as I'm sharing these stories of recent members that joined, I want you to ask yourself this question. How would you describe your experience with weight loss? What are the stories? One of my clients recently shared how she was growing up where Twiggy was the icon, right? You had to look like Twiggy. Well, her mom and her sister were thinner and they called her Husky. I was the larger one in my family. I'm 6 feet tall. One of my sisters is 5'11". My other sister is 5'10". So I was the bigger one. I had bigger bones than them. I wasn't that much bigger than them. But it's the things that we remember. It's the things that we hold on to, that fear, and then we create a whole story around it. So I want you to just take a minute. You could even put me on pause and think, how did people talk about your body? I even have the experience where in high school, my friends would say things like, oh, Dara, you should wear a bra. And I was so small. And they would say, oh, Dara, you don't even have cellulite. I'm so jealous. Right? So they would make these comments about my body. One friend talked about how my eyes they looked like, they were just really skinny slits, and like just these crazy things. And of course, our brain picks up the negative more than the positive. So because of the way our brain is wired and because of our need to belong, what starts happening in the way that you tell your story? Okay, so that's going to be really good work for you. I wanted to share coaching incidents today in my group program. The first one was a client of mine, a member. It's a program. It's a membership in the fact that once you belong, you're a member of the program, but it's not like a monthly membership where you can opt in, opt out. Like once you're in, you're in. And I use those words interchangeably. So I was asking them to describe, how things are going, how are they feeling? And she said, I'm struggling. And I said, okay. Because I was describing to them about the kinds of foods that we're eating and how that influences our happiness, right? So I gave the quote of, it's not the calories in the food, it's the food in the calories. So it's the type of foods that we're eating are going to influence how good we feel, right? If we're giving ourselves a lot of designer foods, like the fancy, shiny, chemical kind of foods, what impact that has on us. So I said, okay, what's happening? She said, well, I just am fighting with myself a lot. I walk to the pantry and catch myself, but I'm just having this constant debate as, do I eat this or not? Am I really hungry? If I get too hungry, what's going to happen? Then she said, my brother passed away and I get really sad about that. I said, let's just slow things down. She's been in the program now a year, so she lost weight sooner at the beginning. So she's not giving herself any credit for the 25 pounds that she's already kept off. She hasn't given herself any credit of like how much more she's getting done. She's starting a quilting business, but she's just focusing on the negative. I said, what do you think is the reason this is happening? When you describe your experience as struggling, how do you feel? She said, I feel heavy. And then when you feel heavy, what do you do? We talked about this game that I started playing with myself yesterday. I've been playing this game my whole life, but yesterday I made it very clear in my brain. It's called the buffering domino game, or the domino buffering game. And we could call it the domino buffalo. We kind of made that into the name of it, the domino buffalo game. I thought, I really need to have a better camera for my YouTube channel. And then all of a sudden, having a camera was of ultimate importance. So you can relate to this where you're like, I need to get this certain fabric, or this linen closet is an absolute disaster. Like I cannot live my life properly if I do not clean this linen closet, or if I don't find this camera, because no one will want to watch my YouTube if I don't have better graphics. This is where our brain starts getting kind of tricky. So then I said to myself, I have a camera, but I can't find it. And then I thought I could look for it for 10 minutes, but if I don't find it, maybe I should just order it on Amazon because it's 5 years old. So then this is what happens. So then I go on Amazon for 10 minutes and look for research. Then I decide not. And then I could go down. I might have even spent longer because I was like, oh, look at this camera and look at that camera. Would that camera be better? You could go research for like 5 hours, right? So I checked my drawers. No, they weren't there. I started checking. Next thing I knew, I'd pulled out my cutting table and now it's all over the floor. I unplugged my mini fridge because I was like, oh, it's messy. I should clean this out. And then there were some bags on my cutting table. So I was like, well, I should take out the stuff from the bags. It was chaos. And then an hour goes by. I didn't find the camera. I'm not anywhere near the solution. And does it even matter? So this client, I said, okay, what is your buffering domino? What does that look like? She went through going to the pantry and then checking her phone and then checking her emails and then thinking about her brother and then starting to make dinner, but then not being hungry, but then maybe being hungry and then getting an apple. I said, of course you're exhausted because this domino buffering game is exhausting and you never get to close that loop. So I asked her, what is your signal you're going to do for yourself when you catch yourself playing the domino buffering game? She has this cute little granddaughter. And I said, if your granddaughter caught herself doing something she wasn't going to do, like maybe she used to suck her thumb and then she started sucking her thumb and she's like, oh, I don't do that anymore. She said, I'm going to just go like this with my hand on my forehead and say, oh, I just caught myself playing the domino buffalo game. We just kind of made it say buffalo. I don't know why. Buffering, buffalo, you can say whatever you want. At the end of the call, I had all of the ladies inside the program, like who are on the call. I said, what is going to be your signal to yourself that you are in this domino effect of buffering? Now, the next one I wanted to share in the coaching call today was one of my clients who was on vacation and got stranded at a hotel because of the weather. She wasn't sure how long. There was just so many things up in the air and she was all by herself. She takes care of her dad and her sister who is some health and mental issues. She thought, well, I got to quickly get some food. So she went to a local fast food place and ordered a salad, burger, and some cheese curds. The hotel had a breakfast buffet, but it didn't have a lot of great food choices for her. So her mind was in scarcity of, I don't know how long I could stay here. And so she ends up eating the burger and cheese curds and then not eating the salad and then beating herself up for not making those good choices. So again, she's falling back into old patterns of using food as a reward. She's also not recognizing that our human evolution was that we need to have fuel. So when we're in that scarcity thinking, it's normal that we want to go and eat the food. As we look at this be kind and rewind concept, I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you ate something that you hadn't planned? And what was the thought right before you ate it? When I asked this client, I said, what was the thought right before you ate the burger? And the thought was, I should have just had the salad. And then we went into, why do you want to lose weight in the first place? This client has already lost 40 pounds. It only has about 20 pounds to go. We went through, what are the reasons to lose weight? Why do you even need to lose 20 more pounds? She said, I want to reduce my arthritis. I want to be more active with my grandkids. I want to feel healthier. I think I want to dress better. She's in her 60s and it gives her the permission to think about going shopping and give her the permission to buy clothes that she actually wants. And then she can have that confidence that the weight's not going to come back on. And even if it does, she knows how to take it off. I wanted to share some real life situations that happen inside my program. The kinds of women that come into my program didn't wake up in the morning and say, I have a great idea. I'm going to put on a bunch of weight and suffer. No, there's a lot of that childhood programming, that need to belong, all of those things. And then once they come in my program, they start realizing, okay, so the reason why I'm struggling is I just have a hard time starting this new business. So it's easier for me to stay familiar with this constant fight with food. It's a very familiar battle. I wanted to share a personal antidote about Be Kind and Rewind through the life coaching lens. We always have our current thoughts about our past. Just like in a family, we can say, oh, do you remember when we went on this vacation? Or remember that Christmas morning? Every person is going to have a different version, a different take on that situation. It's the same for us. We always have our current thoughts about our past. If you were 5 and someone said, oh, it was your birthday last week, tell me about your 5th birthday. So as a 5-year-old, you're telling about your birthday that happened a week ago. And then maybe when you were 15 and someone said, tell me about your 5th birthday. So now you're a 15-year-old telling about your 5th birthday. And then when you're 55 and someone says, tell me about your 5th birthday. You're not going to tell the story from a 5-year-old when you were 5 or when you were 15. You're going to tell the story as you are right now. You can redesign, you can decide, how do I want to tell the story? And being a creative person, we all have the desire to create. We're all creative in our own ways. But we can decide how we want to tell the story. If we had a terrible childhood, had a lot of responsibility, and we're parenting our parents and all those things, you could tell the story in a way that would just make you look like a superhero. You're like, I had the kind of parents that taught me how to be responsible at a young age, and I am a queen of responsibility. It's amazing. If I had parents that did everything for me, I wouldn't be the person I am today. So my recommendation is, if you are ready to let go of yo-yo dieting and the battle with food, come and join us. Now, I'm not promising that everything's going to be hunky-dory. It's not. There is healing. There is work. There's rewiring. There's childhood stuff we have to go through. I get it. In fact, I get it so much. I'm in school becoming a therapist so that I will have the tool set to help with childhood trauma. So if you are ready to finally say enough is enough, I want to take responsibility for my body, my life, my results. My membership is an incredible supportive place. Not only do you get the live coaching and the community, but you get so many resources at your fingertips that will teach you the actual tools to work through these problems. I can't wait to see you there. Bye.